Today's guest is someone who has spent more than 2 decades helping technology companies grow, scale, and break through crowded markets. As the founder and CEO of Funk Future, Jeremy has helped companies scale. He lives in Colorado with his wife and 3 kids, and he's telling me that he's a die-hard Boston sports fan. Um, Jeremy Funk has built a reputation as one of the energy industry's premier connectors, helping innovative companies accelerate sales, recruit top talent, and expand their market presence. He's also the host of multiple podcasts, a trusted advisor to founders and executives, and someone who believes that in a world obsessed with technology, relationships remain the ultimate competitive advantage. Jeremy, welcome to the Future Ventures Scaling with Clarity podcast.
Thank you, Maxim. This is am I red? Because I feel like I'm blushing a little bit. That's some of the nicest stuff people have said about me. Those are all the things that I aspire to be. But what I actually do, we'll dig into all of that. But thank you for having me on today. It's a pleasure. As you noted, I have my own podcast. I've done a number of different podcasts that I've hosted over the last 6 years, starting in COVID. So coming on yours, thank you for inviting me on, and it's a pleasure. This should be a lot of fun.
I'm super excited for the conversation, and the one trend that we're observing is people are dying for more analog experience. They're dying for less digital, and of course, podcast is a medium that connects people. But people want in person, especially after COVID. People want in person. So we've seen this shift in momentum. We're looking at companies and looking at investing in companies that they're kind of facilitating this. Jeremy, you're known as a super connector. Kind of like, what's driving this? Kind of like, what's your motto? What's your credo? And kind of give me your view and lay of the land on how you think about relationships.
Yeah. So I mean, you're speaking my language here for sure. It's kind of interesting. So I am mid 40s, technically maybe late 40s at this point. And back when I was going to school in the late 90s and early 2000s, it was like develop a skill, whether that be a professional skill, like, going to law school and becoming a lawyer or being a doctor, or at that time with kind of the initial tech boom, it was, learn how to code, right? Be a developer. And none of those things were really me. None of those things interested me.
Yeah.
So then you get out in the working world in the early 2000s and it's like, well, what are you good at? Right. Well, I was a good bartender. I was good at waiting tables. I was a popular guy, class president, high school, and captain of the sports teams and all that stuff. So I was good at building relationships, kind of distilling relatively complex topics and simplifying them for people to understand, and having a level of, persuasive skill and capability. So naturally, that sort of just, as I started to apply for jobs, led me to a career in sales. And my first job out here in Colorado, 23 years ago, was inside sales, which was basically just hammering phone calls. It was so incredibly invaluable for me to have that baseline of making an average of about 85 phone calls a day for almost the first 2 years of my career. But what was crushing me was I would see our outside sales reps, and they'd take people out to lunch and for happy hours and dinners and golf and travel the country and go to sporting events. I'm like, I want to do that. Right?
Yeah.
So how can I shorten my path to be able to get there? Even if I wasn't ready, didn't have the experience, didn't have the relationships, I wanted to do that because to me, relationships are everything. Ultimately, why I was able to start Funk Futures, which, as you noted, is kind of an outsourced fractional sales organization. We also do some recruiting and some content and marketing work, was because, like, what is my value? Like, my value, honestly, is this. It's the contacts and the people that are in my cell phone that will respond to me. And those could be C-levels at oil and gas companies. Those could be friends of mine from college. It could be somebody that I grew up with. It could be a 23 or 24-year-old that just got out of college that I want to support in their career journey, right? Because there's a lot of wisdom that I've been able to gain and obtain over time that you don't have at that age, right? So
Yeah.
for me, relationships are everything. And in sales, I think one of the differentiators that my team brings to the table and that I take a lot of pride in is the number one pillar of Funk Futures is authenticity always. And to me, what that means in a nutshell is I think when you are a full-time W-2 salesperson, you're constantly telling your bosses and telling people what you think they want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
My motto is we're going to actually tell you the truth. And I think that that's really important in sales and communicating authentically and honestly is critical and important for these companies to be able to learn and to grow and to scale. And I take a lot of pride in the way that we communicate and work with our clients and really with people in general. I think there's a lot to life that can be learned from sales, and the relationship building aspect is something that is deeply meaningful to me. So hopefully I answered your question. It was kind of rambling, but remember, I'm a podcaster too, so I talk.
No, I love it. What is your best advice, or how should founders think about building rapport, building relationships with customers? Kind of like, what have you found to work really well? And in particular, because you are in enterprise sales, that's the hardest zone in some ways, hardest to break into, right? Because you are dealing not just with one buyer, but you're dealing with an economical buyer and a technical buyer, and you have all of these personas that you have to keep in mind.
Yeah. I think it's building a level of trust and doing so in a way where you become a trusted advisor. And I don't think that's necessarily something that you have to do through experience. I don't think it's something that you find out in a book. It's really meeting people where they're at, right? So when I go into a room, say it's an energy company, it's an oil and gas company, and there's going to be 4 people on their side in the room, I will look at their LinkedIn profiles. I'll ask Claude, because we have all the AI tools now, something about these people, right? And you might find out some interesting things. Maybe I find out they're also a diehard Boston sports fan, or they went to college 10 minutes from where I went to college, which is over 2,000 miles from here. Those are critical insights into the person that could tell you a little bit about them. Maybe there's a charitable organization that is deeply meaningful to them. Maybe they coach their kids' sports teams. There's likely commonalities that all of us have that can change the dynamic of the conversation in a sales environment from a transactional one into a bit more of a personal one. And to me, that's how I like to break down a lot of those barriers, is meeting people where they're at and kind of reflecting how they are approaching you. I don't need to talk about all of those things. If they want to be all about business, I will get down and be all about business. But if there is an opportunity to connect in a way that is more human, more authentic, then I'm going to lean in that direction. And then critically, I think it's asking questions like, how do you learn, right? You've got a product and you want to sell this product, right? But it's super important for the salesperson to realize that you need to understand why they would buy this, what the true value and impact is, not just on their business life, but does that bleed in then to their personal life too? Some of these people in the accounting world, for example, could be working every single month at the end of the month for hours. They could be working on weekends. They could be taking time away from their families. Your solution might have all the bells and whistles, but ultimately, what does it really do? It allows them to buy some time back, right? And be able to spend time doing the things that they want to do versus the workflows that they have in place, which doesn't allow them to do that. So get to the value of what it is you're selling, understand how it can make an impact for them on their day-to-day life and even outside of their day-to-day business life and into their personal life. So for me, one of my best friends is a very high senior ranking sales leader at a publicly traded company. And one of the things that I've noticed in the conversations that we have over the years is both of us just ask each other tons of questions. And it's almost like somebody has to step in and be like, hey, all right, come on, man. Like, you tell me about you, right? But I think that the best salespeople are curious. I think they're inquisitive. I think they ask a lot of questions. And they're always trying to decipher, is this something that I should invest my time in? Not just something that the person on the other side of the table should invest their time and money in, but should I be spending my time on this, or are there more fruitful opportunities for me to pursue?
Couldn't agree more with you. I spent 10 years working with Ernst & Young, now EY, and then 3 years with Deloitte. Um, the, the amazing thing about the professional services firms is that they are incredible sales academies. And I remember I was working with one of our business development executives, and he was telling me about the Mickey Mouse principle. I'm like, what is the Mickey Mouse principle? And for context, at that time, almost the entire BD organization was coming from Xerox. Xerox is known to have like one of the premier sales organizations.
Yeah.
And he's like, the Mickey Mouse principle is 2 giant ears, 1 small mouth. If you're in sales or business development, you're there to listen, kind of understand why should they buy. Kind of to your point, like what is it for the business persona? What is it for the personal persona? Or is there a career risk? Who is an influencer? Just like this is super helpful, like in just thinking about it. But now, if I was to kind of turn the dial a little bit, now we live in a AI space where outreach is automated. I mean, you can use a plethora of sales tools that would just blast messages. As this has become ubiquitous, kind of like what's how do you stand out in a crowded space where like everyone is bombarded with messages? How do you get to the point where you actually can start building relationships with customers?
Yeah, I think it actually, because of AI's advancements, and I mean, by the time this episode comes out, there'll probably be some other, new AI tool or new advancement of the popular applications that could make everything we talk about today move. But I mean, it's crazy. The rate of technology and what AI can do is just simply unbelievable. But that's created an opening. It's created an opportunity for people who really do want to authentically build relationships to stand out. So to me, I know people say cold calling is dead. I don't believe that. I don't buy that. I think if you're an excellent cold caller and you're good at asking questions and getting to the root of the problem and identifying where there could be business opportunities, people have more appreciation for that because everything else is so AI generated today.
Okay.
I also think that for people like me, the world in business and in technology has actually come in our direction where the skills that someone like I have, that you have, are important, right? The people person is more valued today than ever before because everyone is so comfortable hiding behind some sort of chatbot or agent or AI platform.
Yeah.
So for me, I do still leverage some of the old school principles and approaches that we take. Like I don't love mass blasting emails. I send less emails, I make more phone calls, but I've done my research on every single person that I'm reaching out to. And I think that shines through. So people know they're not doing business with the robot, they're doing business with the human being. So the skill sets of being a good listener, being a good human, being a good relationship builder are more important than ever before. And if you have those skills, you can stand out and build a tremendous, lucrative, and fun career. And ironically, the skills that I was told to develop in terms of figure out how to code in 2000 are less important because those jobs are going to be taken away. So it's going to be a really interesting time with AI. And I would just strongly advise everybody to figure out how to connect with other people in a way that doesn't feel forced, that feels real, where they can add value and sort of find their place in the working world and in the professional, in the personal world. Because I think that, like my kids, right? My kids are 16 and 14 and 8, and they use AI for a lot of things. But what they have is, through their mom, who's amazing, and myself, is, they're good people. And I really want them to lean into that and try to find some careers where they can shine with their personalities and their ability to connect with other humans.
How do you, Jeremy, I mean, this is the perfect segue. I'm a dad of two girls, 14 and 12, soon to be 15 and 13. How do you encourage them to develop those skills? Like my girls are extremely friendly with friends, and when it comes to uh, but kind of like what people would associate with business development skills, I don't see it as much. I was impressed last summer. My older daughter and her best friend decided they wanted to, now don't judge the motivation, but they decided they want to make some money to buy Aritzia clothing. And within 3 days, I'm kidding you not, within 3 days, they generated $1,000 just off cutting grass, trimming grass, like helping with yard work. And those are girls.
Yeah.
But and then some of the customers, they're like, hey, come back in 2 weeks. Hey, come back in 2 weeks. So they started to kind of do around. And again, they didn't keep it up, but God bless them. I mean, like they made enough money for them to blow it on the Aritzia clothing.
Right.
But how do you encourage your kids to be more outward focused and ask questions? Do you like invite them to, hey, when we in a public space, go and talk to this stranger, like, or like how do you teach them skills like that? Because to me, sales and storytelling are probably the two most valuable skills that a human can possess.
I agree. Um, Well, I think that we're really fortunate. So for one, I'm Jewish, right? And that is
Okay.
a big part of my identity. My wife actually works in the Jewish world. And I was really fortunate in that when I was growing up, every summer for 2 months, I went to a sleepaway Jewish summer camp. And my
Okay.
wife did the same thing, not at the same camp. Hers was in Pennsylvania, mine was in Massachusetts. But not only were devices not as prevalent then, but for a period of 2 months, you didn't have any access to devices. And we've passed that gift on to our kids. So there was a period of
Mhm.
time where I think it's about 3 weeks. The camp cycles have shortened a little bit, but for 3 weeks, they have no access to technology.
No way.
And I love that. And they come back and they
Yeah.
love it because they're just leaning into that true human experience and getting to,
Yeah.
they don't have a choice, right? They have to connect with, it's not my dog, it's his, for the record.
Yeah.
They have to connect with people, right? They're put in a position where they can't just go in the corner and sit on their phone. And yeah, of course, the second they come back, they want to get on their phone and who's been, DMing them on Instagram and
Yeah.
what TikToks
Yeah.
have they missed and all of that. And I understand
Yeah.
that. But I think even just a few weeks a year, right?
Hmm.
Being forced off of your devices, it's critical. And I think that
Absolutely.
that's actually bled over into the rest of their life. You get to be out in nature, you get to be with other people. You have to figure things out. You have to understand how to coexist with other people
Mhm.
at a young age. And I think that that is incredibly critical for this
Yeah.
generation. So sending them to camp is one. I think two is, we have rules with at dinner, at meals, no phones, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we try our best. It's not easy. But I'm just as guilty of it. I mean, my
Yeah.
phone's right here. It's probably buzzing right now. Is this a work related thing? Is it, I mean, we're so tethered to our devices that I really value getting away from the technology. And my kids like that as well. So I want to continue to encourage them to the lessons
Yeah.
that they learn in those 3 weeks at camp are lessons that I hope stick with them for the rest
Yeah.
of their life where they can do things that don't involve technology.
Yeah. It's a blessing and a curse, technology. And I mean, like I don't know if this is a real product or a rumored product, but Apple coming out with a flip phone, with a dumb phone, where all you can do is make phone calls and see the time,
Yeah.
right? Like there's a lot of companies that are actually spinning up like anti-technology products just because
Yeah,
they want to force you to disconnect. Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
Jeremy, you talked about like finding ways to build connections and it talked about authenticity. Like, what are your ways of building genuine, authentic relationships?
It's a really important question. And, I actually, a good friend of mine that I met back at summer camp in the 90s is an associate professor, or I guess a full blown professor now at Bentley University, teaching a sales course. First of all, I'm jealous. Like, I wish I could have had a really strong professional salesperson teach me how to do sales. when I was 20, 21, 22 years old. But that wasn't really any curriculum that was available to me at that time. So Professor Young, he has me come in and he encourages all the students to do some research on me, right?
Mhm.
Come in and ask questions about how, how did you get to where you are in your career? And I feel like the answers to the questions are oftentimes very similar to what I'll answer to the question that you just asked me. And that is, I think when a lot of people decide that they're going to pursue a career in sales, they feel like they have to fit a certain persona, right? Like they
Mhm.
watch The Wolf of Wall Street, or they, have, back in our generation, it was just Wall Street, right? Or Glengarry,
Mhm.
Glenn Ross. And you think that a salesperson is this slick talker, wears nice suits, doesn't listen, and closes deals and drives
Mhm.
nice cars. And I'm here to completely dispel that, right? I actually look at my conversations in business as the
Mhm.
same that I would look at them in life, right? If somebody wants to have a conversation and the conversation isn't anything about business, I'm happy to meet them there, right?
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, if they just want to talk about business, I will meet them there and talk about business. But for me, it is, I really try to be myself. And this is easier to do with years of wisdom and experience. But I'm always conscious of, I don't want to come across as a really salesy person. Of course, sales
Yeah.
is how I make money. And I built a whole business around effectively doing sales. But the truth is I really think that it's important to show up as a human being, to show up in a way where you make people comfortable and disarm them, where you're different than other salespeople, and that you truly are just yourself. And that's the
Okay.
best advice that I could possibly give is, you know, outside of work, we're all people, right? And I want to bring more and more of that into work. It's part of why I started the podcast, because I want to get to know people at a level where I understand what's meaningful to them, because they're getting inundated with product
Yeah.
pitches and sales and AI and work politics and all this crap. And I'm really here to just say, look, I'm just here to see if there's value in what we're bringing to you to the table, and if there's
Mhm.
not today, I'm going to be in this space for a long time, and so are you. So is there an opportunity for us to get to know one another in a way that the next time I call on you, with a different business
Okay.
card, you're going to say, hey, I like doing business with that guy, right? And you build up enough of those types of people over time, and they know what they're going to get when you show up in the room, right? You're going to get somebody who will listen, who cares
Mhm.
about the business impact of the solution that they make, and is not in the back of their head calculating how much commission they're going to make when they get the sale. So again, some of this comes with experience, some of it comes with wisdom, some of it comes from lots of painful losses in business, but I've kind of decided that the best way for me to show up and authentically connect with people is to be as consistent as I possibly can, whether you meet me at a baseball game, right? Whether you meet me at a conference, whether you meet me in the boardroom or at lunch, you're kind of getting the same thing. You're getting the same experience. And at that level of predictability and knowing that they're not going to get a pushy salesperson unless they want the
Mhm.
sales pushed on them and they explicitly tell me that,
Mhm.
you're going to get somebody that wants to have a conversation, that wants to
Mhm.
listen, and that wants to diagnose, um, is this an opportunity that's worth both of us investing our time in?
Couldn't agree more with you. We we've been working with Techstars, another amazing Colorado organization,
Oh yeah,
and so
so
we've Bradfield, David, yeah, Eric Matisek, like amazing organization. Um, we've adopted the Give First manifesto. We've put our own twist on things, but we believe that if you want to build an ecosystem, if you want to build valuable relationship, not just because I mean, sure, you're a podcaster. I have a podcast. We have large networks, but large networks to me is different from a valuable network. And the way that you define a valuable network is to give value, like make the people that the part of your network better for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, you said giving, and that's a super
Mhm.
meaningful word and term to me. I consider myself an extremely generous and charitable person, whether that would be giving to charitable organizations or even giving my time, like I said earlier, to folks
Mhm.
that are younger that I think could really benefit from understanding from all of the years of learning and experience that I have.
Yeah.
I would love it if the younger generation could learn from my failures and not have to experience them for themselves. I mean, yes,
Yeah.
it's experience is the greatest teacher. You really can't duplicate that. But, if I were to look back, I would say there's a lot of hard lessons that I had to learn on my own. And I would love for the younger generation to be able to see those flags coming and diagnose them themselves and not necessarily have to have some of the challenging times that people like myself have had in
Mhm.
their career or in life.
Yeah. Um, where in Colorado are you based out of?
I live in a city, I guess technically. I think of it as a town, but it's a city called Lafayette. It's in Boulder
Yeah.
County.
Yeah.
And I guess to bring back some of the personal stuff, right? I grew up in New Hampshire until I was 18. I went to college at Brandeis University, just outside of
Mhm.
Boston. And at 23 years old, loaded up everything that I had, which wasn't much, into a vehicle with two of my
Yeah.
best friends that I grew up with, and we drove sight unseen to Boulder, Colorado. And I
Yeah.
ended up in Boulder on Halloween of 2003, and I've been here ever since. It's a beautiful area. I love
Amazing.
living here. I met my girlfriend who became my wife, not too long after. Our
Yeah.
anniversary is tomorrow. It's going to
Yeah.
be 17 years of the marriage. Like I said, 3 kids. My daughters are very similar in age to yours. So thinking about college now, driver's license, it's a
Yeah.
different time. But also, I was able to kind of stick around here because I started to build a network. I started to get into
Yeah.
technology sales, work at some recognizable companies and brands
Mhm.
that might not be known entities elsewhere. So, yeah, a bit of a longer answer to your question, but really half my life in northern New England, and then half my life
Mhm.
here in Colorado, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Hey, New Hampshire, Jewish. Got any connections to Noah Khan? We can't get tickets to see him.
I don't think so. But if he's a Jewish guy from New Hampshire, there's not too many of us,
His,
so I
his,
could probably connect. I could probably connect with them on that, or maybe being a Red Sox fan or something else, right?
yeah, it's amazing. I mean, my girls, like that's one of their favorite artists. I mean, obviously he's a really talented musician. We've seen him perform live. We're trying to get tickets now to see him again. It's just bloody impossible for him. The highlight was playing at the Red Sox stadium, right? Like
At Fenway
because he was
Park.
coming home. Yeah, Fenway Park. Yeah,
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 good story about that. So I was just recently in the Boston area about 3 weeks ago, and I took my son. He's 8. I've gone to like 100 baseball games at Fenway Park
hmm
before. It's my favorite place in the city of Boston. My heart's there, right? That was my home city growing up. All my
yeah,
sports teams are there. I've got family there, friends, and I took my son to a game, and it was sort of like this perfect confluence of events where it was raining all day in Boston, and one of my friends was going to meet us there. He's like, I don't know if they're going to play. Flight was a little bit delayed. We land, and I get this notification they will play, but it's going to be a 20-minute delay to start. I'm like,
okay.
perfect. That actually works
hmm
well with my schedule today. So went into the city, grabbed my son a Red Sox jersey. He's obsessed with jerseys, so we got him a Red Sox jersey. I went on the Game Time app. I got these unbelievable tickets right behind the Red Sox dugout. Um,
Well,
like somebody just panic sold them, right? The weather wasn't great. They weren't going to go to the game. We're 30 minutes before the first pitch. And, I certainly paid like half of face value for
hmm
them, right?
hmm
We get in, we sit there, and there was another father and son right behind us, but they were more like 60 and 30. And they're like, oh man, um, at the end of every inning, when the Red Sox run off the field and come to their dugout, they're like throwing a ball to a kid in the
no way,
stands. Like, you've got a
no
kid,
way.
you got an 8-year-old son. Like, you got to like lift him up. You know what I mean? And make it obvious. So Red Sox finish out an inning, they come off, they throw the ball to somebody else. I'm like, no, I got to make it obvious, right?
Yeah.
So, I stand out in the aisle, I'm waving my arms, right? Trevor Story, the shortstop, used to play for the Colorado Rockies, actually. I'm waving and I'm like pointing at my kid, like, no,
Yeah.
it's not for me, it's for
Yeah.
him, right? And he kind of gives me a head nod. throws me the ball, right? I catch it, hand it to the kid, and he goes like that, right? Gives me like like wanted to make sure that I wasn't actually taking it for myself. And two innings into his first game at Fenway Park, he gets a baseball. Meanwhile, I'm 100 games in and I've never gotten the ball in that park.
Wow, this is the charm of and cuteness of little kids, right? Like you can't beat it. That's amazing story.
Thank you. Yeah. So of course he's like, you think I can get another one? I'm like, all right, buddy, let's not be greedy. He's like, well, I don't know. Like they keep throwing it in the stands and there's foul balls. I'm like, if you get 2 balls in your first game here and I get none, we're gonna have issues, kid.
I want to go back to Boulder, Jeremy. As I mentioned, we've been working with Techstars, and Boulder, Colorado is Techstars' most successful community. And we've worked with Eric on kind of like, well, what makes Boulder special? But I want to get your perspective. Why, of all the places in the world where Techstars operates, why is Boulder so special?
Boulder's just a magical place for one. I mean, there's, I believe in, cities and places and humans in the world. There's energy, and there's just this palpable energy in Boulder, which is kind of like this. It's just kind of like a happy vibe. Like some people say, oh, it's crunchy or granola or it's hippie. It's pretty yuppified at this point. What they say about Boulder is it used to be a Subaru town, and then it got more expensive and became an Audi town, and now it's a Tesla town, right? So Boulder's just sort of this magical place that's in the middle of the country, not far from Boulder, right up against the foothills. It's just absolutely beautiful. I mean, I can see the mountains and the foothills from my desk office, which is just spectacular. The weather's great. It's not hot. It's not humid, and it's just comfortable. There's just something about here that the quality of life is so high. You're kind of, nature is just sort of always around you. You're in nature a ton. And I think that that's really important for, mental health, providing a little bit of peace. But I think that there's something about Boulder where it allows for creativity, and it's also expensive. So you have to find ways to be able to make money to live here. It's sort of like real estate in Boulder is comparable to San Francisco or Manhattan or Maui. So, even people like myself who have had successful careers, like we couldn't have a house this size in Boulder. It costs $6 million. You know what I mean? So you live 10, 15 minutes away. Where it's a little bit more, I'd say, real world and normal. The Boulder is a bubble. It's kind of it's a special place. Brad Feld actually was on the board of a company that I worked at called Rally Software back in 2005, 2006 time period. So he was building up his brand. He was a board member and an investor and an advisor. And I think that he's a bit of a shining light for how to not just be your typical grind you out VC private equity type, right? He's big into giving back. He's big into building community, and seeing someone like that operate and following their path in my more formative early career days was really impactful. So I think he's a great representative of what you see from people in Boulder. It's a welcoming place. It's a friendly place. The weather's beautiful. You've got nature. It's hard to beat, man.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. That kind of echoes with some of the community building comments. And I mean, it's not surprising that Techstar as a community architect is a title, is an archetype. And for context, I live in Calgary. Our sister city is Denver. We both are in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. So there's a lot of similarities. Like we lead the country in terms of GDP growth, population growth, venture growth, but we're coming from behind. Calgary, if like we're 1.75 million people in terms of population, but Toronto is way ahead of us in terms of ventures, and so is Vancouver. So, but there's a lot of momentum that's kind of happening here in the city.
That's good. I mean, I love Calgary. I remember back in 1988 in the winter watching the Olympics in Calgary. Sort of, I would have been about 8 years old. So it was like formative times for me. And I was always like, oh, cool, Calgary,
Hmm.
it just resonated with me watching the Olympics in those days. And then, I got into oil and gas 20 years later,
Yeah.
and worked for a company called Energy Navigator, which was based, right across the bow when the bow was being built, in
Hmm.
Calgary. So I went up there in late 2010. It was, I want to say October. Yeah, it must have been October. And it felt so much like Denver, man. It was like
Yeah.
eerie, crazy,
Yeah.
and I felt, a lot of like the things that I love about here, the welcoming nature, the comfort, the oil and gas influence, um, some tremendous similarities where, maybe it used to be a little bit more of a cow town and an oil town, and it's become more of a technology town. And interestingly, from the perspective of the oil and gas industry, a lot of the best technologies have come out of Calgary.
Hmm.
Um,
For
but a lot
sure.
of technology companies in Calgary have died on the border, right? Like
Yeah.
it's
Very
different
true.
in the US, but it's similar. And yeah, I love when we bring on Calgary centric clients, because for one, maybe it means I can go up there and sneak off to Banff for a day or
Yeah.
two. But for two, I just love getting up there. I've built good friendships and relationships in that city. I'm looking forward to the new hockey arena. Like,
Hmm.
I remember the first time I went to the Saddle Dome, I'm like, oh my God, this location would be so amazing to have like the best hockey arena in the world. And it
Yeah.
sounds like they're going down that path, to do so. But I like the Saddle Dome. I like Calgary. I feel super comfortable there. I like the food. People are great. The weather can be good, right? Super long days in the summer, even longer than we have
Yeah.
here because of where you're based. But
Yeah.
it's a great town. And recently just brought on a resource that's based in Calgary on the Funk Futures team,
Amazing.
which is awesome. It kind of helps us extend our reach a little bit.
Amazing. No, I echo your comments. The new arena, it's already above ground.
Okay.
I don't know. I think it's fall of 2027 when the target completion date is for
Oh,
it, but
soon.
it's soon. I'm surprised that they didn't make it bigger because the old Saddle Dome, I think seating capacity was 25,000. I think the new arena, it's only seating 28, so a little bit more, but not that much more in terms of seating capacity. But it's, yeah, there's a ton of energy in the city.
Well, it'll be more of a draw for concerts too, because like I've heard, just
Yeah.
because of, while the shape of the Saddle Dome is unique and cool, and part of the Calgary skyline, it's also horrible for acoustics, right? So
Yes.
I do think they'll be able to get some of these acts that go up to
Hmm.
Edmonton or go to
Hmm.
Vancouver, but don't go to Calgary because they're like, it's going to sound like shit. So I'm just not going to do that here. Um, I, yeah, I'm going to be, it makes some sense to me why they built it out on that side at that size, right? You want a full arena, you want there to be demand still.
Hmm.
Because I saw them do sort of the opposite here in Denver when the Rockies came to town and were more of a baseball novelty. They played in the football stadium. The football stadium seated almost 70,000, and they would fill it up. So
Hmm.
naturally, they decided, well, let's build Coors Field. Let's put it downtown. Let's make it a 55,000 seat stadium. And it almost never sells out, right?
Hmm.
So there's something about having, even if it's a smaller arena or stadium, somebody in almost every seat. I think it just creates a different
Yeah.
vibe, a different atmosphere than a whole bunch of, empty open seats. So I can see it. I think it makes a little bit
Yeah.
of sense to me why they did that, but it's going to be fun. I'm definitely going to check it out. I'll go to a game up there, visit a client, take some people out to
Yeah.
Caesars or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know the good places. Um, we're working on launching a new fund, and I'm curious, where do you see opportunities in energy and industrial space?
I mean, the obvious answer is AI, right? I
Hmm.
mean, any level of automation that you can create or provide for the user is, it's not just going to be like a differentiator, it's going to be expected, right? So an example that I like to use, we're about to start with a new company that's actually based in Calgary called Fueled,
Okay.
Fuelled, and they've got kind of a marketplace for oil and gas equipment. It's been a
Okay.
traditionally like kind of broker driven market, but you think about, an oil and gas company finishes up a project and then they have all
Yeah.
of this equipment that they pull out of the
Yeah.
ground and it sits in a yard, right?
Hmm.
And they call their local broker. "Hey, we've got some pipe with some PVC pipe or steel pipe, or we have these, compressor engines, or, oil and gas. Ultimately, it's construction. It's a big construction project. So you have various different types of machines. We don't want this on our lot, right? We want to get rid of it. So Fueled's really fascinating organization. To me, they've sort of become like maybe an Amazon for oil and gas field equipment, or eBay. And there are things that they're doing now that are based off of what they see with apps like eBay and Amazon, where it becomes, well, if you like this, maybe you want to buy this, but also just take a picture and scan in the item, and the AI in the background will tell you what the picture's of and maybe suggest what you should list it for. Well, that type of time savings is going to be incredibly valuable for a company that's like, no, I'll just hire a broker. He'll come on site, write everything down for a few days, go to the internet, look at potential comps, try to source buyers. If that experience can be shortened and you can do it all digitally, there's an incredible competitive advantage to that, because what AI does really well for the most part is save people time, right?
Absolutely.
It's not always 100% correct, right? We still have to be, it's gotten better, less hallucinations, more accuracy, but it saves you time. And I think that people are going to start expecting that and really be almost turned off by any user experience that forces them to do things manually and take away from their time, because we're getting spoiled with AI that we can now accomplish so much in a short period of time. So for me, it's anything around AI and automation. And also, I think, sort of predictive capabilities, right? So give me some line of sight on what might happen and what impact that could have, I think would be really, really impactful, special, something to look into. Is, all right, cool. You've automated this experience for me today, but what do I need to think about for the next 6 months? And allow AI or, predictive analytics or large language models to assist in that process. I think if you're building a technology company now and you're going to market without AI, you're crazy. Like I don't see any real benefit into doing that. But also, you need to meet people where they're at, right? This isn't just selling to people that are so computer savvy. There's older people. Like my dad was asking me, he writes music, right? He's written musicals, he's written plays, he writes his own music, plays the piano. And I was saying to him, there's probably AI apps out there that you could tell what you want to write in a song and the types of sound you want it to have, and it can do it for you. Right. But he's 80 years old, right? So he needs somebody to show him how to do it. But nonetheless, the fact that somebody thought to create that for the older boomer to be able to, that likes to write music, to be able to write a song that might take him weeks or months afterwards, and in 5 minutes be able to spit out the lyrics as well as the notes, it's crazy. And that's the world that we're heading into now. So anything that can save people time, that can automate, that incorporates AI, and provides, especially on the business side of things, some level of predictive intelligence, are the types of companies that I'd be looking at. But ultimately, to go back to the beginning, I mean, you're investing in the people, right? Like you're ultimately going to decide, like, are these the types of people that, one, we want to work with, that two, will be good stewards of the money that we're going to give them, and then three, somebody that is authentic and that we want to work with, and if it's not working, they're willing to pivot and be honest with us about how they're doing that. So no matter what, as great as technology is and as great as money is, it comes down to the people.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with you. And so if you look at kind of like what are the best archetypes for founders, it's like people that have had to overcome some personal challenges, people that have built grit and resilience, farmers, athletes, soldiers, like people that they've had to persevere through challenges. They typically make the best founders. And to your point, I mean, like, even if it's a later stage company, you're still investing in the people, because they're the ones that they're leading the company to the future.
You got it. Yeah, 100%. I mean, culture is really, really important. I value that in our organization. It becomes very obvious if there's a resource that comes in, even if they're brilliant and a hard worker and super skilled, if they're not a cultural fit, it's probably not going to last very long, right? And I completely agree with you that you're looking for resilience, right? You're looking for like what is different about this person based on their experience? I mean, hell, I've been laid off or fired, I don't know, 3 or 4 times in my career.
Mhm.
I think that I'm excellent at what I do, but that doesn't matter. You might end up in a situation where you lose a couple of deals, your confidence get crushed, you're not hitting your numbers, and you get let go, right? And understanding that that's just all part of the experience. It's
Mhm.
part of the life experience, it's part of the business experience. And frankly, if I didn't get laid off from my last job in 2021, I probably wouldn't have started
Enough.
Funk Futures, and the
Yeah.
2020s would have looked much different for me. I also don't think like on that topic, I don't think that everybody needs to be an entrepreneur. Like,
Okay.
I actually say this to a lot of folks, and I think there's been this sort of like hustle culture that's
Yeah.
emerged. And social media has
Yeah.
been the worst part of this. Is like, sell everything you have and live in your parents' basement, and um,
We'll be the startup.
yeah, go do a startup. Not everybody has to do that. Like my view
Okay.
is there's nothing wrong with being a W-2 employee if it brings you happiness and you have some level of balance and
Mhm.
harmony and peace in your life. That you don't necessarily need to give all of that up. For me, right? I always, make that caveat. My story is like, I didn't really enjoy being an employee. I think that
Mhm.
I'm an excellent consultant. I think I'm a good entrepreneur. I think I'm easy to work with on my terms, right? So for me, taking an entrepreneurial path made a lot of sense. But there are plenty of other people that you can do just fine without ever having to be an entrepreneur. And it's a grind, man. I said this last week when we went on vacation when I came back. It took me 65 months of working
Mhm.
about 65 hours a week to
Yeah.
take my first true vacation and unplug. And sometimes that's just what it takes. And I don't say that to brag or to juice up my hours, but it's taken a lot to get to this point, and now we're sort of at this really interesting inflection within my business where we have people, right? It is
Yeah.
not all just reliant on me.
Yeah.
I can start to tap into maybe more of my creative side or think about new lines of business or branch out deeper
Yeah.
outside of oil and gas or lean into some of the coaching things that speak to me. um, but that took time, right? It took time.
Mhm.
It took money. It took a lot of turnover and getting the right people in place to find some level of business zen, which we're getting close to.
Yeah. Your overnight success after working 65 months for 65
And
hours a
20
week.
and 20 years before that, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, appreciate Jeremy. I like to ask this as a closing question. What's the kindest thing anybody has ever done for you?
the kindest.
The kindest.
Wow, you didn't prep me for that one. What's the kindest thing that everyone has done? I don't know. I mean, my wife decided to marry me. That was probably the kindest thing that anybody's ever done. Um, I think that's one. I mean, I want to reflect back actually on my parents. So I grew
Yeah.
up, like I said, in New Hampshire, and they were both teachers. So, teachers' salaries, I never needed anything, but there were things that I wanted.
Hmm.
We didn't go on the big fancy trips to Disney. I only got on a couple of airplanes in my life before,
Hmm.
I got to college and out in the working world. Um, but they really prioritized sending me to summer camps, to integrate and spend time with other people, and also they saved their pennies to really allow me to go to whatever college I wanted to go to.
Yeah.
And that really stuck with me. So I think the kindest thing is probably the sacrifices and the sacrifice that they made, the selflessness that they displayed to prioritize their children's education and my education,
Hmm.
to allow me to go to a school like Brandeis, where I saw what it would take to be successful, because there were people that came from money and that
Yeah.
had more opportunities available to them and went to better schools, prior to going to college. And it was eye opening for me that, well, what's my competitive advantage here? Like, I better figure it out, right? I better level up
Yeah.
my game because maybe I'm not as
Yeah.
good as I thought I was. So, truly, probably the kindest thing, bigger things, of course, one, my wife marrying me and having children with me
Yeah.
and all of that. But I'd probably say just the selflessness of my parents to, prioritize saving for their children's education, um, is most likely the kindest thing that anybody's ever done for me.
That's amazing. I think that's probably a common response to this question. I mean, I feel the same way. Like, I grew up in a working class family, and I remember if it came down to courses, textbook, education, there was always money on the table for that.
Awesome.
Jeremy, absolutely love the conversation, the authenticity, the rawness that you brought in. Let's continue these conversations. But thank you so much for your generosity with time.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. And look, if anybody wants to reach out to me, I am always here to provide whatever service or value that I can. You know, I'm Jeremy Funk. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can go to our website, funkfutures.com. But certainly always here to give back where I can and provide value for others. Thank you so much, Maxim, for having me today. It was awesome.
Absolute pleasure.